Today, I wanted to answer some of your questions about a spiritual awakening. I've been receiving a lot of emails, Instagram messages, I've been reading through your comments, and for this video, I've picked some questions that I've also seen pop up more and more, and I wanted to answer them. So hopefully they can also benefit you if you are looking for a certain tool or if you're not sure if a certain experience is normal. But I've taken a couple of questions from what I've received in my email, from my Instagram, and also from YouTube. So let's dive into them. Johannes sent me an email asking, I cannot quite let go of disturbing intrusive thoughts. I usually can handle intrusive thoughts very well, but I feel like that these thoughts I'm having right now are the raid bosses of intrusive thoughts. I love that example. It's difficult to just be aware of them and let them be. Sometimes I can handle it better, sometimes worse. I just wondered if you could give me some tips or share your personal experience with these ugly thoughts. Johannes, I had so many negative, dark, disturbing, intrusive thoughts. This is something what I was really struggling with when I felt like I got myself stuck a little bit in the suffering aspect of going through a spiritual awakening. So I am very, very familiar with these intrusive thoughts. I thought that I had a personality disorder. I thought maybe it was really a serious mental disorder because it felt like it was somebody else telling me these thoughts. But at the same time, I knew that I was healthy. I knew that there wasn't anything, let's say, biologically or chemically wrong with my brain. But I did have a lot of intrusive, dark thoughts. It was quite draining. I would feel very overwhelmed by them. There were a couple of times when I would get stuck in such mental loops that I would just be pacing around the apartment, almost like talking to myself and crying at the same time. There were many times, I'm not ashamed to admit, that I would just like curl up in a ball and lay on my carpet and just cry because I didn't know what else to do. And I definitely felt ruled by these thoughts. Now, every single person is different, so what works for me might not work for you. However, I've worked with, some spiritual teachers. I worked with a therapist. I'm a licensed, a spiritual life coach myself, so I have certain tools that I've learned myself. So I'll share with you 2 or 3 things that have been helpful for me. When I get stuck in these intrusive, dark thoughts, it's very hard for me to do exercises or to use tools that actually require my brain to think. For example, like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Where you would be challenging your thoughts, or you are, working with your thoughts or doing a meditation, for example. This didn't work for me because by the time when I've gotten to a place where those intrusive thoughts is something that I couldn't handle and I was really struggling with, doing something like a meditation or a cognitive behavioral therapy technique simply didn't work because I felt like I was adding more fuel to the fire. So I really was focusing on physical exercises. So apologies for my coughing because I was sick for quite a while and I still have this lingering cough. One of the things that really worked for me is doing breath work. I will share 2 videos in the description that have been helpful for me. One of them is the Wim Hof breathing technique, which is around 10 minutes. You can start it as a beginner. You can do the more intermediate or advanced video. It's really, really helpful. I did it quite a lot. I still do it every single day, first thing in the morning, because it helps me regulate my system. There's something about going into this breathing that becomes quite meditative, and also my whole body starts to buzz and I find it really, really soothing. So when nothing else was helping, doing breath work helped. So I would either do the Wim Hof breathing technique, or I would do another breathwork video, which was much longer. I do have to say it's a little bit more intense. It's around 20 minutes long, but it was different levels. If I was stuck with these intrusive thoughts, I would do Wim Hof. If I really knew that I needed more time and there might have been deeper emotions underneath also these thoughts, I would do this 20-minute breathwork video. I'm gonna link it in the description for you. And lastly, a cold shower. I discovered it by accident. I used to do cold showers here and there, but one of the times I was really, really stuck in my mind and I was thinking, I don't know what to do with myself. So I was like, you know what, I just need to go under a cold shower. And the cold shower really helped because first of all, it brought me to the present moment. All the thoughts from my mind evaporated, and second of all, it did actually regulate my nervous system. So a few other times I also combined first taking a cold shower and then doing the 10 or the 20 minute breathwork video. So these are the 3 tools. Like, I'm really talking for myself in extremes when, like you said, you have these raid bosses of intrusive thoughts. These are the 3 things that I would go for. In all the other instances, obviously journaling all of my thoughts, working with a coach helped a lot, or with a therapist, and also doing some inner child work and meditation, because I realized that a lot of the intrusive thoughts were linked to my fears, and my fears were linked to my inner child. So that was also really helpful. But when it came to the absolute extremes, breath work and cold showers just regulated my nervous system and got me out of my head, because I was very stuck in it. I hope it's helpful. I got another question from Starstorm on YouTube, and the question was, did you experience a gap between the old self and the new self where you just did not know who you were, like feeling being no one? I'm experiencing a numb feeling in my identity, feels like there's just no one inside. I can't find any reference inside of myself, so it's hard to make any decisions about daily life or solve problems and duties. Not just the exhaustion, but also the feeling there's just no one inside, no inner map. Starstorm, thank you for asking the question. Absolutely. This was my experience. I wouldn't say the first year going through the spiritual awakening, but the following 2 years, and even as I exited my dark night of the soul, or my spiritual awakening, this is exactly how I felt. And I've talked about it in a couple of other videos as well, where I felt like I was in between. I felt like I was in this dark hole of nothingness. I mean, I knew who I was. Yeah, I've done these studies, and yes, I've been doing this job, and this is my name, and this is where I live. But I felt like I had no substance to me. There was definitely no purpose, no bigger meaning. There was no drive or ambition. I felt like my task was just to get on with the day-to-day stuff that it takes to be this human and take care of yourself and, pay your bills. But other than that, I felt like there was nothing. So there definitely was an in-between. And I was quite hard on myself during this time as well, because I was like, yeah, I'm usually a very productive, energetic person. I need to have all this energy. I need to know where I'm going and what my goals are. But then I realized, hold on a second, I'm going through such a deep cleansing and such a deep transformation that costs so much energy. I cannot ask of myself at the same time to try and, focus now on who I want to be and how I want to grow and what I want to do and my goals and ambitions. So I decided to give up on it, honestly. First of all, because it was too exhausting. Second of all, because I just didn't know what else to do. And ironically enough, I just accepted it. I was like, you know what? If this is what my life is going to be for the rest of my life, so be it. It's not going to be nice, but I've accepted kind of being stuck in this suffering and in this dark space. But after 2 years of feeling this way, when I actually started feeling like, wait, different dots are connecting, I'm starting to understand my experiences, it wasn't a gradual overnight shift, but slowly I started feeling like I'm getting back to myself, but to my actual self. Because in the past, I would have thought that, like, oh yeah, I know who I am, this is who I am, I'm feeling so stable in myself and my identity and, what I am in the world and what I want to do. But then going through this awakening and losing all sense of identity, kind of having like an ego death, not knowing what to do, being in the in-between, and then gradually feeling like, wait, this is something I resonate with. Wait, this is what's important to me. This is what I want to, the direction in which I want to go. Suddenly everything started falling into place bit by bit. And now, a year and a half later, after I would say I concluded my dark night of the soul, or left the really difficult part of a spiritual awakening, I feel more of myself than I've ever been, and at the same time I'm very different from who I was. So yes, I definitely can relate. If there's one advice or kind of like thing that I can share with you that's hopefully helpful, is first of all, don't try to escape this space. If you're trying to get out of it, if you're trying to not feel the way you feel now, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot more. And it just makes the whole experience way, way, way more difficult. So what I would suggest is just don't focus about the long-term picture. Don't essentially focus about having to reconstruct your identity or who you are. Just focus on the day-to-day, small habits, small rituals. Do a grounding exercise, do a visualization meditation, take care of yourself, move, try to eat healthy. Just focus on the little things, because once you have the foundation at least that is good and firm and healthy, from that place you invite more room, and more space and more energy for you to start discovering and to open up space to discover who you are, who this new version of you is. But don't try to get away and escape this in between, so to say, because that's also an important aspect. It's super uncomfortable. But if you try to run away from it or try to experience anything else but this, it just makes it much worse. And then also, for something that might be helpful is that you could do a visualization meditation to try and spark ideas about what you would enjoy, what you would like your morning to look like, who you would like to potentially, become, but very little by little. I have a free guided visualization. I'm going to link in the description for you if you'd like to download it, or anybody else. But really, it's taking baby steps. It's not jumping from being in the in-between to, oh yeah, suddenly I have this incredible sense of self and, what is important and valuable to me, and I am this person, and, this is why this transformation was important for me. It's really baby steps. So sometimes, I would listen to these guided visualization meditations as well. I wouldn't have any images. I would have nothing that would spark within me, but at least I would have it as questions in the background, as small questions in the background. And then I wouldn't force it. I wouldn't force myself to have all the answers or have all these different images and really know what I want, myself to look like, what I would like to be like. It's just these questions that were in the background that I would close my eyes, listen to it, not force anything. And then after a couple of years of discomfort and going through this, suddenly I started to feel like this energy's coming back inside, because I just felt so drained. I felt like I had no energy. I was depleted. Everything was just going outwards towards getting through the spiritual awakening. And then at one point, I felt like, okay, slowly all of this energy is starting to come back into my body, and I'm starting to feel more energized and more excited as well. I know it's not a definite answer, but then again, there's no definite answer to any of these questions, but I hope at least some of these things are going to be helpful. Katerina sent me an email asking, I'm not sure if you felt the same way going through your awakening, but at the same time as I feel isolated and alone in this experience, there's a part of me that wants to stay isolated and alone. I wish I had a community or people to talk to about this, someone who understood, but at the same time I can't help but think that if I open up, I will be called crazy. I can relate. There's a push and pull within me between wanting connection and being understood, but at the same time wanting to be alone and isolated. I wanted to ask if it's something you've experienced. Short answer, Katerina, yes, that is something that I experienced throughout the whole spiritual awakening journey. It was kind of interesting because during this time, this was the time when I saw the least friends and I did the least amount of social functions. It's the time when I was the least socially engaged. So that was a period of 3 years, I would say. And it was really difficult because I had some people close to me. I had my mom, she's also very spiritual, very into energy work, so she's somebody that I could talk to about this. And then I had my therapist, and I had another spiritual teacher that I was working with. But other than that, I had a couple of close friends, of course, that I would feel comfortable opening up to and saying, hey, I'm going through a difficult time, I'm feeling really triggered, I can't, regulate my emotions, and they would be there for me. But at the same time, I never fully disclosed, let's say, the intensity of what I was feeling. So that was really something that I felt I could share with my therapist and my spiritual teacher and also my mom, but everybody else I kind of toned it down a little bit, and I prefer to indeed isolate myself, not talk about it. I also had no energy to be social. I was so drained every single day that I had no energy to try and be the most social that I could be or do all of these different functions. And then there was a lot of intensity in my home environment too that was just emotionally draining. So I can totally relate. I would be home isolated, stuck in my suffering, desiring that I was somewhere out, doing cool things and socializing. But then in the moments when I was out, socializing and doing things, I felt so disturbed inside. I felt so raw emotionally, like any little thing could tick me off, that then when I was out, I was wishing to be back home on the couch or in bed, just in like a little safe space. So I can definitely understand the push and pull. I do have to say that this experience, dark night of the soul, spiritual awakening, it is natural to feel like you want to be a hermit. It's natural to feel like you really want to be more isolated because you are dealing with so much. Once again, like I said, you're going to such a deep purging and cleansing and a big transformation that costs so much energy. It's normal that you just want to be in your own little bubble and focus on healing and trying to get through this instead of just, being social or let's say hanging out with your friends or a community or doing a lot of social functions. So I definitely understand. I think the community aspect or having at least a couple of people that you're able to talk to about this is still quite important, because when you don't, this is how we get stuck in our suffering. This is how we get stuck in woe is me, I'm a victim, I'm never gonna get out of this, life is suffering, everything is bad. And I went to that place where I was just like very deep in the darkness and just self-loathing, so to say. So you want to take space for yourself and time for yourself, and it's okay to isolate, be a little hermit, but at the same time having at least a couple of people that you can talk to that would understand you. I understand that there's also a fear of being, seen as crazy. I've experienced that as well. It makes it very, very vulnerable, right? Because you're already going through so much, you already feel so vulnerable and so disoriented sometimes through your experience, that it feels like if you open up to somebody and the other person doesn't understand, it's like somebody like taking their nails and going over your open wound. It's gonna hurt so much. You're gonna feel even more rejected and abandoned. So whether you have a friend or a family member or somebody that you've been able to connect to, maybe there are certain men or women circles in your area, or just spiritual circles or different communities like a mindfulness meditation community. Those are spaces that are usually good to find like-minded people and people that would really understand you. But it's okay to isolate, to be a hermit, but just don't get so stuck in your own little bubble, because we definitely lose the bigger picture and we forget that we're able to share these experiences and stories with other people, and that makes the burden lighter to bear. There were also quite a few questions that I saw on YouTube saying that, is it normal to sleep so much? I'm sleeping a lot. I'm unable to experience joy or happiness. I'm feeling numb. I feel like a ghost of myself. So I kind of coupled all of these comments into one. And I just want to say, yes, it's normal. There is no template when you're going through a spiritual awakening of what's normal, what's not normal. You're having dark, intrusive thoughts. You feel crazy. You're sleeping a lot. You're not able to experience any joy or excitement or pleasure. You feel like a ghost of yourself. You feel like you're in between these identities on these or these people within yourself. It's all normal. There's no right or wrong in this experience. Every single person is going to have obviously a different journey, because that's also something I believe that their soul is calling for, just your own individual transformation that you need to go through. So there's no template for this, but just to really focus on, I've already talked about feeling numb and feeling like a ghost of yourself and unable to feel excitement or happiness. But the sleeping a lot, feeling really tired and exhausted, once again, yes, that's normal. I felt tired every day for 3 years. I'm somebody that's really healthy and fit. I exercise a lot. I've always had a very rigorous exercise routine, let's say, working out 4 to 5 times a week. But during these 3 years, I would say that on average, I would work out twice a week, and my workouts, the intensity was not even as high as I usually would do it, because again, I felt like I was drained. I still thankfully maintained my healthy habits, exercise, eating healthy, I rarely drink. So these habits really helped ground me. But at the same time, because I know what my normal energy levels are like, I'm usually here. During the whole process, I was here. I was really like hanging by a thread. So sleeping a lot, napping, needing to have slower mornings. It's definitely normal. There's nothing wrong. There's, again, so much energy just moving through. There's so much energetic work. There's so much going on an energetic level that we cannot see. You could say, yeah, but I stayed at home the whole day. Why am I so tired? Yes, you stayed at home, but in your psyche level, in your energetic level, there's so much going on. There's so much activity that it makes sense you would need more rest, you would need more extra time to wind down, you need extra sleep, and you're feeling tired. So you're not alone in this. I've experienced the same, and also reading a lot of other comments, there are also a lot of people that are also struggling with the same thing, which is, yeah, quite common during a spiritual awakening. Final question. Roya asks me on Instagram, in one of your videos you talked about having spiritual guides through this road. I am really struggling. This has been the most challenging time of my life, and I'm in so much pain that no one around me understands. I still don't know if this is the dark night of the soul, but when you talked about it, it felt very familiar. I wanted to ask you this. How did you find your spiritual guides on earth? I really need someone to guide me through this. I appreciate your guidance. Roya, I can really relate to this. I didn't always have guides or mentors or people that could understand me, and that I felt that I could open up and share this experience or this journey with. My mom is somebody that understood me. She's also very spiritual and, you know, energy work. So I was able to be quite vulnerable and share all of this with her. And then when it comes to spiritual teachers, so years ago, this was 6 years ago, I did my certification in spiritual life coaching. So I got a lot of training with different energy work, and also that's where I was added to a community to work with other coaches and practice with other coaches. So one part of kind of like my introduction to a deeper spiritual community was through this training that I did. And then otherwise, I also worked with a spiritual teacher that I found online. To be honest, my mom had found her online, worked with her, had a really good experience, and then I worked with her as well. So it was really just through research. There are communities and, of course, different spiritual teachers. The most important thing is who you resonate with. So there are two paths, right? One of them is finding a community such as in meditation, let's say groups in your city, or women's or men's circles, or just like spiritual circles where you are able to come together with other people, share what you're going through, and other people are on a similar path. I think that in-person gatherings are really, really helpful. On the other hand, there are also teachers, I mean, like me, you are watching this video right now as well. I am a spiritual life coach. I work with a lot of clients and energy work. So in case you're called to work with me as well, that would be a possibility. But also to everybody who's looking for a little bit more of a community feeling, but also having some tools to help support them, I am launching a 10-day course to share with you tools to support your spiritual awakening. It's going to be an audio-led course because there's going to be quite a lot of exercises that are energy work and visualizations. So if you would like to be on the wait list, I'm going to link it in the description. The course is going to go live sometime, I'm expecting sometime in April. So if you are interested, you can sign up and I'll keep you up to date. And also, of course, I work with clients, as I mentioned, one-on-one, so all the information is in the description. But again, the most important thing is that you would resonate with somebody. So whether it's going through something like free circles and in-person gathering events, maybe there is something in your city or nearby, or otherwise finding a coach or a teacher to work with. And you know, sometimes people reach out to me and they say, hey, I really want to work with you. Is that a possibility? But then they think that I need to work with, you know, a teacher every single week. You don't need to work with a teacher every single week. When I worked with my teachers, some of them, like my therapist, I had sessions every single week. With my spiritual teacher, I would have a session roughly once every 4 or 5 weeks. So again, you know, a lot of the times finances are the constricting factor, or the time and being busy. So you don't need to work with somebody every single week to get the benefits and to feel like there is guidance. It's also okay to have just semi-regular check-ins, whether it's once a month or once every 2 months. I hope this video was helpful. I've seen so many of these questions, so I really wanted to answer them. As I mentioned, I am launching a 10-day audio course, Tools to Support Your Spiritual Awakening. If you are interested to be put on the wait list when the course launches, you can sign up below. And thank you so much for your time and for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I will answer them, and I will also see you in the next video.